about 20 years ago, as I was graduating college, I started working in the United States and applying for my residency. I wanted to live in the United States. The job I was in hired lawyers for me. I was very grateful for that. And we started the process. It was a long, expensive process of applying for residency so that I could live and stay working where I was working. 2, 3, 4 years turned into 6. And I did not enjoy the job I was in. And I just felt this urge, like I had to be true to myself and I had to leave that job. So I called the lawyers. I told them to stop working. I told my employers that I was leaving and that I was so grateful for everything I'd gotten. And I got on a plane. When I got to Costa Rica, I received a letter from the US government about 2 weeks after I'd landed, congratulating me and letting me know that I'd won the green card lottery and I was now a US resident. And I just had to stop by the embassy to pick up my green card. You can imagine my confusion. Was this divine timing? Was this just random? How could I interpret or what meaning could I make of the situation? Today's guest, Naomi Westwater, brings us a question about divine timing, about things coming together in strange ways, how to deal with these events, and what information or what meaning to make out of them. I am excited to get to know them and delighted to have this conversation and parse this out with them. I'm Mauricio Bruce, and this is The Real Question. Hi, Naomi. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I'm very excited you're here. I just learned you are former Not Sorry faculty.
Yep.
And I've also heard you are now, or maybe you were then too, but an event producer or cultural curator.
Yeah, I think I've been doing that for a really long time, actually, when I think about that title. That's been happening for over a decade.
I mean, I love that title. Do you want to talk a little bit about what you're doing?
Sure. So, I'm a musician and artist. And for a very long time, I've also just been an event producer and cultural curator. So I have a festival. We just had our third one called We Make Noise Fest. We take over Downtown Crossing in Boston for a day and put on a free festival celebrating women and gender expansive artists in the Boston area. And I have a series called Reclaiming Folk, celebrating people of color in folk music. And we've been doing that all over Massachusetts. So I've kind of, as an independent artist, it's like if I want certain things to get done, I just have realized I have to do them.
Wow. Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I usually start this show by asking people, if they could share anything, what would they share? Is there something else you want to share?
Sure. Yeah, I listened to the show. So I was thinking about this for myself. And in astrology, there's a term called mutable. And it represents the astrological signs that happen as one season is coming to an end and another season is beginning. And I think that I am a very mutable person in that a lot of my identities don't fit into a box. I'm multiracial, queer, genderqueer. And I think I'm someone who also likes change, metabolizes change, would be very upset if things haven't changed or I haven't grown and changed. And so in that way, I'm kind of in that mutable space where, living in between seasons often.
So when you say mutable, I just want to understand this. I love this idea, sort of in between. Is it, if I were to put it in a month, just to understand, let's say the end of August, the beginning of September, would the mutable sign just sort of span that in between the 2 months?
Correct.
Kind of?
So right now it's Virgo season and we're in the mutable season, which is we're transforming from summer to fall. And I think, depending on where your listeners are, I'm in New England and there's that feeling of some days still feel like summer, but some days are starting to feel like fall, but we're not in fall yet, and summer hasn't ended yet.
Yeah.
And that's a concept in astrology, but I think about it in my life all the time of kind of being someone that's in more than one place and therefore everywhere and nowhere all at the same time.
Got it. That's beautiful. I'm very excited to see where this conversation's going to go.
Me too.
So tell me what your question is.
I've been ruminating on my question a lot because in a very mutable way, I will be like, I think I figured it out. And then I'll go back and be like, no, I really don't know. My question is, should I give up on my album, which came out in May of this year? And that's the simplest form of the question. But of course, it's super layered and nuanced, and there's a lot more there.
So do you want me to ask, or do you want to guide me?
I can give you some context, but please ask too. I think a few things. One is I came out with an album in May that I've been really actively working on for 4 years throughout the whole recording process and writing. And I started writing it not realizing I was writing a record all the way back in 2014. So this has been a huge artistic project I've been working on and spent about 4 years of my life and many, many thousands of dollars on making it a reality. And 2 months before my record was time to come out, my dad got very sick and went into the hospital, and a month before he died. And so the record came out, and I was completely thrown into death admin and grief and planning a memorial service and cleaning out my parents' house. And I canceled all of these shows, and certain things had already been in place, so it didn't make sense to postpone the record. I had already spent thousands of dollars on PR and all that kind of stuff. But I feel like I never actually got what I wanted out of releasing a record. I haven't toured it. I haven't really got to celebrate it. I had all of these shows around the Northeast planned and all of those things. Even just like I think attention that I was hoping to get from the record. Plenty of people were paying attention to me in my community, but it was all surrounding grief, and it wasn't from a celebratory place. And lots of things, even with like press, I wasn't able to like get all the things that I wanted or the recognition or to like push the record as much as I wanted to, because the last thing I wanted to do was be on social media talking about my record. So it's out in the world, and I'm incredibly proud of it. And I, have been thinking about, do I want to keep pursuing this record in the spring? Would I like to kind of do a redo and do the tour again? Or do I let it go? Because I have so many other things that are asking for my attention and so many other things that I want to do with my time. And I believe that timing is divine. So do I kind of just accept that was the timing that it happened? And that's kind of, the record ended up being the medicine that I personally needed. And maybe it didn't reach as many people as I wanted it to. Or do I keep pursuing and pushing? Do I redo the tour? Do I even want to tour this music still?
Okay. I am so sorry that your father passed away just as this was coming together. Like, that can't have been easy.
Yeah, the spring is, I think, we have these moments in our life where we look back and we're like, how did I do that? I don't know. And in addition to that, was moving out of my house, going through a divorce. So it was like all of these things happened within 3 months of each other. And
oh my gosh.
It just was.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, like I just rightfully so didn't have space to think about creative things.
Yeah. I have a lot of thoughts and a lot of questions, but before I go there, I just want to ask, when you say, should I give up on my album? What that means is move on, let the album do its own thing and not sort of go on tour and not, can you give me a little bit of context of what it would mean to give up on the album?
I think there is an aspect of being a musician that is beyond the creativity, which is the like pushing of the project, right? It's very similar to when someone writes a book and then releases the book. And now it's like, now I'm on book tour and I'm talking about the book constantly. I'm doing press about the book. I'm going to as many bookstores and conferences as possible, talking about the book, pushing the book. An album is the same thing. There's like an album campaign. And so I could go on tour and really push this record, and I could be on social media talking about the record every day. I could be going to folk and rock music conferences and pushing the record. I'm still going to be performing no matter what, and I'll still be playing the songs no matter what, and the songs exist. But there's a certain kind of marketing campaign that I could be doing, or I could just kind of say like, the record's there. I'm going to sometimes sing those songs and sometimes not sing those songs. And I'm going to start working on other things. I mean, there's lots of other possibilities as well, but there's, an aspect of kind of really pushing it to people that I could keep doing.
So I know that this album, you said it had been coming together for about 4 years.
Yeah.
This isn't just something that happened in the spring. This is an effort that has been coming together in all kinds of ways for a while. And it all collided in the spring. You talked about a divorce. You talked about your father's passing. You talked about moving. It's almost like it all sort of erupted and collided in the same moment.
Correct.
And the reason I'm bringing this up is because you spoke about your belief that timing is divine.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how that plays into this.
Well, my record's called Cycle and Change, and it's about the wheel of the year, the pagan wheel of the year, and the seasons. So it starts in spring and goes through the 4 seasons, and it ends in winter. And so part of the divine timing is I think I wrote a record that I need in this moment. And that like I am experiencing cycle and change as the record is out in the world. And I think the other aspect of the timing, I cannot interpret for myself. I can't interpret if it means like I said, keep pushing, keep going, or if it means like, sometimes you plan something for 4 years and it collides with really other big life events and you have to just let those things go.
I see. So do you see your album as colliding with these other life events?
I definitely think what I wanted, which was to feel celebratory and to celebrate the record and to share it with a lot of people live, that got overtaken by everything else going on in my life. Yeah.
Yes. I want to just do a parenthesis here and just to pause, just to understand something, Naomi, because I feel like as I talk to you, you seem like quite a spiritual person.
Yeah.
And it seems like the production of the album and the release of the album and all of this for you is a spiritual process.
Yeah. And, I think the timing of the record, we've been talking about seasons, is like, I specifically timed the record to happen in springtime, which to me is a time where we are coming out into the world and blossoming and blooming. And that was very intentional. But what happened was, for me, this spring ended up being kind of a wintering time where I was grieving and in that initial kind of first month of haze of grief and in really so much more of an internal place. So there's some like disconnect there of like, I wasn't even interested in celebrating my record or going on tour because I was just like, I'm still in a grieving place, but I'm in a functional grieving place now.
Sure. And so if we talk about celebration right now, you said you wanted it to be celebratory and it never felt that way. If you think about having a celebration right now, does that feel in balance or do you still not feel there?
I think what I feel is the amount of effort that has to go into whether it's one show or 10 shows, just like so much planning and effort and energy. And there, I think, is also like some disappointment that can come through for me of like, do I want to put in more energy to this project? And then potentially, like, let's say I plan a tour for the spring and the tour is not satisfying. And then I put in, all this time and effort on a tour that was kind of like, whatever. Or I, redo the album release show and only a handful of people show up. So that's kind of this thing is there. I can feel there's a part of myself that like wants to be protective of the potential disappointment that just comes with this career at the level that I'm at, is that there are shows that feel wildly amazing and like I'm tapped into humanity. And then there are shows where 5 people show up and it's a little bit depressing and kind of deflating. And I think one of the things that I'm not sure about is like, can I handle the risk of putting more energy into this project and feeling like I'm not actually getting the results that I still
that you
want.
Imagined at some point. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it feels to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this album, the moment it came out and everything that was happening around it and that you say it collided with, it's almost like the album has taken on other meanings as well.
Sure. Yeah. There are certain songs that like, I wrote a song that's on the record called 1st of May. And I wrote it when we were all in lockdown for the pandemic. And it's about celebrating Beltane, May Day, and missing my friends. And when I sang that song now, there's like this aspect of I'm thinking about it in the context of my dad not being around.
Mm-hmm.
So the experience of releasing the album is definitely like changing how I interact with the music.
Would you go as far as to say, and I don't mean to be prescriptive here, but the album has become sort of a container that is holding a little bit of the grief of your dad's passing, the grief of the relationship ending?
I don't think that so much. I actually think one of the things that's then causing some more tension is like I've written more music. Because it's taken me 4 years to release this album. I have written music in the meantime, and I'm writing music about what's happening to me now. And so I think all musicians, and I'm sure authors feel this way too, but there's like a relevancy issue that happens when it takes so long to produce a body of work, is that I feel there's less urgency for me to perform these songs because the songs that feel very urgent are the ones that I just wrote in the last 6 months.
Okay.
And now those are the songs that are kind of saying like, hey, pay attention to us. Hey, pay attention to us. Like perform us, record us. And so, yeah, kind of my the way I think about it, and it's not an either or situation, but it's like, is it fair to the other bodies of work that I'm working on or that are trying to come through me to keep paying attention to this older body of work?
Right.
And sometimes I think, from a spiritual place, my job is just to channel the work, and then it's the work's job to figure out what it's going to do. And then from another point of view, this record is very spiritual, and I feel like people need to hear it and have the spiritual experience. And so then I feel, that tension of both.
Okay. I love that tension. And I love the opportunity to get to work with it. There's the one that you say, listen, I channeled this. It's now the work's work to go figure out what it needs to do in the world. I wrote it. I gave it the best container I could give it. I was very responsible with it. And now it's out in the world, and it's its job to figure out what it needs to do.
Yeah.
And if we believe in divine timing, then we can also respect that it came out at exactly the right time and under the exact circumstances that it needed to come out in.
Yes.
But the other aspect that you're bringing in is this is important work. And I feel bad not not sort of pushing it and giving it to people and showing it to people and letting people connect with this. Because if it just lives on its own, I don't know if I can trust that it'll get to the right people.
Yeah. I think, in like a magic world, what would happen is like Oprah would listen to the record and then Oprah would start talking about it and I wouldn't have to talk about it because Oprah's talking about it.
Oprah, are you listening?
And I would just like go on making my own music and Oprah can, share the record with the masses and like that's great, right? But that's not impossible, but low probability. So because of that, it's like if I don't talk about the work and share the work with the world, who is going to? And how is the work going to be shared if it's not me? What do we owe to our creations?
Right. And so here's one question to start off this conversation. If you don't put any effort to it and you just trust that it's out there and that whoever has to listen to it will listen to it, maybe eventually Oprah will listen to it. What feeling would that give you? I'm just curious, like if you just let it go and say, okay, I did it. I gave it its shape and now I need to keep going with what's calling. What happens there?
I think the feeling I get is some relief, a little bit of sadness, but that ultimately I still would need some kind of closure, right? Like a big album celebration is kind of closure. Something either with an audience or without that is kind of a marking of the end of this project. Because it's like, because I didn't get that tour, and especially like I had 2 local shows that were supposed to be these big celebrations with my community, and my band was supposed to play, and we never did those things. So because I didn't get those, it just feels like there's just an open-ended feeling. So if I were to kind of just let it go and just say like it's out in the world and whatever happens, but I'm not going to be the one driving it. I think I would still need something.
Some
could
ritual.
Be a show, some ritual that's kind of like, and now the end of this project,
Right. It's almost like you need to, it was born, you paused it, and it's still on pause. You need to let it run its course, but you need to sort of mark that.
Yeah.
And now let's, just for the sake of the exercise, go down the other path. You decide, okay, this work came through me and I had to push it to the side for a while because I had to focus on other things. And the fair thing to do is to dedicate the space that I would dedicate to any of my work, because it is one of, my creations, and it deserves the space that all my creations deserve. And it didn't get it. So I need to commit to the tour, to the celebration. What happens then?
A few things happen. One is I feel some momentum, and I also feel, that sounds like a whole lot of work. I think something that happens when the work is published is that some of the creativity is done. And that makes it boring to me.
Yeah, I get it.
It's all logistics for the most part. Like I'll have shows and the shows are creative, but the amount of logistics of planning a tour and how many hours that is versus the actual performing, the ratio is very off. So one of the things is like, how can I make this so it still feels creative? These are songs that I've been playing now for 4 years. I've listened to them recorded a million times and played them and practiced them a million times. And I mean, we had rehearsal last night with the band and like, it still feels good to do it. But there is a little bit of boredom of like, here it is, this song again. So I would need to somehow make it feel fresh and still creative. Or I could say, maybe I'm just going to do one show instead of a whole tour, or maybe I'm going to tour and it'll be the Cycle and Change tour, but I'm going to sneak in some of those new songs or something that is a little bit so that I don't feel like I'm just in like logistic soup, basically.
So I have a couple of different questions for this part because I saw something there when you said, oh, there's a lot of momentum, and then there's that, ugh.
Yeah.
Is that there for every tour? Would it have been there in the spring?
Yes, I think that is always there. I think, yes.
Okay. So
Yep.
here's my other question. As I hear you speak, and you've mentioned that the name of the record is Cycle and Change, and it was born in the spring, and we are in that mutable part of the season, going into fall and winter. And sort of respecting what you're saying, what would it look like instead of a welcome tour to have a goodbye tour for the album?
Oh, that would feel both fitting and sad at the same time.
You want to tell me more about the sadness?
I think this record, both the decade of writing it and then that also kind of connects with the 4 years of creating it. The creation of the record is completely interwoven with all of the personal changes that have happened to me. And back to divine timing, really what happened was in the spring was my entire life changed. Like where I live changed, who I'm married to changed, who I think of myself as a person, my artistry, my relationship to my dad and my entire family. All of that changed all within a couple months. And so I'm like a completely different person now. Saying goodbye to that record, I think, is also saying goodbye to the person who recorded that record.
Mm-hmm. When you just described the change that you've gone through, it even feels more appropriate. I just, when we have our two options, either we go and celebrate or we move on. And you said there's a relief and there's sadness if we move on. And if we go celebrate it, there's momentum and there's And I just feel like there's a part of you that wouldn't just be able to say, okay, we need to close that cycle.
Yeah.
And it also feels like having a big celebration and having a tour and doesn't feel appropriate for you. And it feels like too much work for this work.
Yeah, I think coming to it from a perspective of a closing and goodbye instead of a celebration is more appropriate. I think one of the things that I feel that I think I have accepted is that like the celebratory thing that I wanted is not happening. And part of the reason why it's not happening is because I'm not interested in it.
I almost feel like you can't celebrate until that other part is put to rest.
Yeah.
Like the you that recorded that album, that old life, that old cycle. It needs to be honored and finished before the new spring can begin.
Yeah. I think having like a goodbye party for the record and for that part of my life feels more appropriate than like a welcome party. The energy of how this record came out and where I am is not in that. And just kind of just shifting that perspective to me, I think means the events or a tour or whatever would have to have a softer feeling to them. And a little bit less of a like, it's here, yay, go listen to it. And a little bit more of like, hey, I'm closing this chapter of my life and would love for you to come enjoy this music as I'm closing this chapter. It's allowing me to maybe show up more realistically where I am emotionally.
And even as a spiritual teacher, to teach this cycle and change that you're putting out into the world or trying to remind people about.
Yeah, I think one of the experiences that's happened for me is like, as hard as the spring has been, I felt really comfortable being with someone who was sick and dying and being in a room with death in a way that was so surprising to me.
Mhm.
I think so many people are afraid of death and dying and afraid of grieving, and I feel not afraid of it at all. I feel like I want to embrace it, which is a very different feeling than kind of the celebrating of something new coming into the world.
I think people are really afraid of change,
Yeah.
and death is the big change.
Yeah.
And I think when death shows up, it changes everyone around it, not just the person who passes, but all of us who are near.
Yeah. And I think I feel like change is like some of the closest I've ever experienced God. And so it's not easy, it's hard, but like I feel within the change that I have been the most spiritually tapped in that I've ever been in my life.
That's really beautiful. Okay. I'm going to bring us back to the original question, if that's okay, which was, should I give up on my album? Where we started. I feel this has been a really rich and beautiful conversation. And I want to know where you are sitting with the original question that you brought, should I give up on my album?
I think for me, the question, it's not a question now, but the answer is really like, what I need to do is say goodbye to my album.
Yeah, right. It's not give up.
Yeah. It's say goodbye.
Yeah, say goodbye to my album. I know I'm not Oprah, but I will include your album in the show notes, and I would like to play a song from it. When our conversation is over, do you have any idea what song you would like me to play?
Yes, let's play The Empress, which takes place in this mutable season of summer turning to fall, and also is inspired by the tarot card, The Empress, for my former tarot students.
I love that. The Empress, sort of, if I remember my tarot, the Earth Mother.
Yeah.
Nurturer. Anything else you wanna tell us about the Empress?
In the record, the song before it is about not being able to trust. And so the Empress comes as the antidote to that energy. And it is about learning to not be afraid of summer ending and darkness coming in. And the different choruses are, I too am sacred, I cycle too, I too am precious. And I often have my audience put a hand to their heart and say those things to themselves as kind of a little spell. So yeah, it's medicine that I need to say to myself that I hope other people can then also take in if they need it too.
I think that's the perfect song for us to end on.
Yeah.
This has been The Real Question. Our show is funded through our Patreon at patreon.com/realquestionpod. Another way you can support this show is by leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening. We are always looking for more guests, so go to our website, realquestionpod.com, and submit. I would love to have a conversation with you right here on the show. We love to shout out our BFF tier patrons: Renee Underhill, Amanda Schramm, Christina Igu Brandon, and Jackson Paul Keeley. We are a Not Sorry production. Our co-executive producers are Vanessa Zoltan and Ariana Nettleman. We are edited and produced by Ariana Nettleman. Music is by Nick Bowl, and we are distributed by Acast. Support for this show comes from the Fetzer Institute. Thank you, Naomi, for joining us today. Thank you for this rich and exciting conversation. Thank you for reminding us about the cycles of life, about change, and reminding us to get comfortable with change. Naomi's album is called Cycle and Change. Stick around after the credits for The Empress. And thanks as always to our wonderful team: Julia Argy, Nikki Zoltan, AJ Yaramas, Anissa Ahmed, Danny Langley, Courtney Brown, Casper Turkile, and Stephanie Paulsell. Join us next week for another conversation on The Real Question.
doesn't cry when summer exhales its last sigh. The Empress lives in abundance. She knows all seasons have their sacred names. I too am sacred. I too am sacred. I too am sacred. I too am sacred. The Empress just relishes